This training video details how to complete an Adam profile for any given biomedical asset, an overview of the automatable discovery and access matrix standard, and how it can be used is found at the URL shown. As shown here in this simple spreadsheet layout, an Adam profile comprises of a header section detailing information about the Adam matrix itself and the object to which it refers, a permissions section which mainly handles simpler aspects of use, especially common consent concepts, a terms section which covers more complex matters such as those related to legal or contractual issues, and a meta-conditions section which handles several other overarching and interpretation issues. Everything below the header section can be completed more than once per Adam profile. This allows alternative consents and conditions of use to be specified for a single biomedical object, such as stating how it can be discovered versus how it can be shared. Within all such subprofiles, most fields are optional, and as such only need to be filled in if relevant consent and data use conditions exist. All three non-header sections have subsections, allowing the resulting Adam profile to fully elaborate consents and conditions of use. As these are filled in, it is possible that the entered data could give rise to internal contradictions in the profile. Therefore, 5 completion rules have been defined that must be honoured to guarantee a valid Adam profile. For example, as shown here, one of these rules is that at least one consent or data use condition must be stated, i.e. at least one non-compulsory, non-header field must be filled in. Now let us look at each detailed section in turn. In the permissions section, usage items are arranged in a logical hierarchical manner, as shown. Values entered for any item automatically apply to all items below it in the hierarchical tree, unless otherwise stated. Allowed values that would typically be entered for the simple permissions concepts include unrestricted and forbidden, which are self-explanatory. To state a level of permission between these two, the value limited can be entered, and further details can optionally be entered into the free text box that accompanies the item. In the terms section, the usage concepts are not hierarchically arranged, as shown. Each item relates to a category of use where restrictions may or may not apply. However, because of the complexity of these terms items, it would not be logical to state that there is no way for that form of use to not be possible. An example would be the terms item timeline restrictions. There might be no timeline restrictions, or there might be some form of timeline restrictions, but the timeline restrictions could not be such as to prohibit use. Reflecting this particular character of the terms items, each one is expressed in a form that states that no restrictions apply, such as there are no timeline restrictions. Entering the allowed value true confirms that this is the case. Alternatively, the allowed value untrue can be entered, typically accompanied by an optional explanation entered into the free text box for that item. Finally, the meta-conditions section simply covers general points that are needed to make the profile complete and meaningful. For example, for the mode of sharing specified here, the value can be set as discovery, access, or as shown here, both. Other more complex aspects of interpreting a profile are also dealt with by this section. One example of a more complex situation could be where a particular form of use is not only allowed, as indicated by entering unrestricted or limited as a permission section entry, but is also compulsory. Adam provides ways to specify this via the obligatory option, which can either be selected as a permitted value where available, or attached to a specific free text item. We will see how this functions later on in this tutorial via the worked example profile. Several obligatory entries may exist in a profile, and the meta-conditions section specifies whether one or all of these must be respected. Please check out the full Adam documentation to see exactly how this works, along with other sophistications regarding the creation of complex profiles. Now that we've reviewed the basic design of Adam, we will look at a piece of software that has been created to assist users in completing an Adam profile. Using the software, rather than directly filling in a spreadsheet version of Adam, such as an Excel document, enables all necessary validation tests to be run automatically. Thereby, one can be certain that the created profile is not internally inconsistent or anomalous in any way. The software now shown on screen is freely available and can be downloaded from the URL shown. by following the appropriate link for your computer's operating system under the Automatable Discovery and Access Matrix section. The Adam tool allows the user to select which section of the matrix to complete by means of the hierarchical menu in the left-hand window. Using the triangle next to any term will display its subsections. Typically, selecting a value for a given subsection, such as limited for the country subsection, then allows further details to be entered into the accompanying free text box. This can be accessed by selecting the subsection, such as allowed countries, and clicking on the Data tab in the middle panel. Using this approach, a user can complete the appropriate categories for an object, with refinements to the general rules being made via the free text boxes. As the Adam profile is built, a summary of it appears in the right-hand window, which the user can opt to view in one of two formats, either a simple key-value format or the JavaScript object notation format known as JSON. The four buttons in the middle bottom of the screen allow the Adam profile to be saved as either an incomplete but invalid version or in either the key-value or JSON formats when complete. An incomplete profile can be saved at any time using the No Validation button, which, as the name suggests, saves the file without confirming that it conforms to the 5 completion rules. Alternatively, if a user feels the profile is complete enough to conform to the 5 completion rules, but is not yet complete, they can use the With Validation button to save the profile, and the software will validate the profile before saving. When an Adam profile is complete, the user can save it in either JSON or text format using the appropriate buttons. Exporting any final profile will automatically invoke the validation procedure to ensure that the defined profile adheres to the 5 completion rules. Now that we have reviewed the basic design of Adam, we will see how a profile is created in practice. To do this, we will use a fictitious profile that is based on a real-world consent form used in the Canadian Care for Rare project. The starting point is the collated information on an object's consent and terms of use, as shown in this Excel form for the fictitious object. Starting with the header section, the matrix creation date must be completed in the form of a 4-digit year, followed by a 2-digit month, and then a 2-digit date. In this case, that is 2018-02-14. The mandatory resource name field is completed as Rare Genetic Disease Project, and the resource version is then completed as shown. The resource description is defined as coded datasets, and the resource data level is set to the Dataset Record Set option. For the permission section in this example, the fields now shown have been set to unrestricted, with no additional conditions specified in the respective subsections. However, the use of this object is conditional on its use in research into the study of rare genetic disorders and related health research. This condition is captured by using the obligatory options, in this case by selecting the limited obligatory option for both the use for research purposes and its subsection, used for biomedical research. The field of research is restricted to the research into study of rare genetic disorders and related health research by entering this term into the free text box of the use for research concerning disease after setting this subsection to the limited option. For clarity, the study of rare genetic disorders and related health research phrase can also be entered into the free text field of the upper Use for Research Purposes section. The requirement for Ethics Board approval for access to the object is encoded in the Terms section by revoking the No Authorization Terms using the Untrue option, and in this particular case entering Access requires approval from the Steering Committee and relevant Research Ethics Board into the free text box. As with all profiles, a mode of sharing must be defined, and in this particular example, this is simply set to Access. As there is more than one of the permission subsections set to an obligatory value, then the Multiple Obligations Rule field must be completed. In this case, this has been set to Meet all obligatory permissions. Finally, as the same consent permissions have been provided to all data subjects, as is commonly used in a large study, the Uniform Consent subsection of the Metaconditions section has been set to true. Once saved, the file can only be updated or versioned rather than edited. This can be performed using the Updates tab in the centre panel, after the file to be updated has been opened, using the File Open option of the Atom Tools window.